Hi, it's Susan from Worldpeacefull. I felt inspired actually to read a poem, produce a video tonight. I was quite tired before, so I was actually going to let it go as the inspiration was there and it was around poetry. So today was very interesting. I found out about the climate strike here in Australia, where there was 300,000 people plus probably protesting for climate change. In other words, we have to change. It's about people coming to a point where they're seeing that they're not being responded to, that their change is not happening. We all can see business as usual is continuing, and no matter how it's dressed up, whether it's smart cities, whether it's technologies, from my perspective, at the end of the day, the problem is that we have not understood how to live in harmony with the natural world. And we can't survive without the natural world. And that's even despite the promises of artificial intelligence and automation. That is not going to be enough to restore the planet to homeostasis, because we ourselves are out of alignment with life itself. And it's not just the inaction of world leaders or the inability of world leaders to change. It's not just the vested interests who keep on this trajectory of control. It's not just the rhythm of routine that we're all still doing. It's really about all of us. So whilst the 300,000 might be out there saying that the leadership has to change, in actual fact, it's each and every one of us that has to change. That's the truth of it. We have to wake up, because the climate and nature cannot be affected to this extent unless we're all participating. And yes, I would grant the idea that we're unconscious, we're ignorant, we are filled with fear, because that's what's been communicated, is that it's a fearful world. We've got the China-US trade war, we've got all the skirmishes and wars around the world where tensions are occurring because people have not resolved conflict. We have diseases, we have materialism increasing across the planet as people see this as progress. We've moved away from, ways of doing and being that did serve us thousands of years ago. So today really is evoking within me the urgency of change, but it's a personal change. Whoever comes to this video, this message is for you. And I just want to go still for a moment before I read the poem that I wrote, as I feel there's something significant, and in fact the solstice is very close. Right now, actually, tomorrow, next day, next 3 days is around the solstice. I get the sense of equality, balance. Things are not moving during the solstice. So I'm going to go still and see what happens. I'm just going to take my jacket off. I was getting very still in the mind. The solstice is stillness. There's an equalizing in respect of the planet during the solstice. Equal night, equal day. There's balance. Many things happen during solstice. So what was happening for me was a sense of calmness, the importance of peace, actually, and the need to sort of explain it. We have to get very calm in order to solve these challenges that are set before us. We have to get very slow, very still. This slowing of our pace is actually a harmonization with the natural world. It's like the calm in the storm. It also gives you the ability to actually notice things when you're in a slower pace. In my circumstances, and I often talk about homelessness, but I see it as also a slowing down. The homelessness is a slowing down. I don't have to rush to get up tomorrow morning. I don't have to rush anywhere. I literally choose my day every single day. I don't have to be anywhere for the most part. Yet I feel very moved by my research work that I'm doing. So I have much to learn is what's happening for me. But I can do it at any time that I want. I'm very free. I'm free to go and do the research, sit down with a coffee, which is one of my pet loves, and read what it is I choose to read. It's like this time in my life is like the fallow time. If you had, let's say, a busy field where you're cultivating crops, you're creating yields, that land is very utilized. It's very active. Anyone that's been on the land would know that you have to leave land, what they call fallow, for a time in order for it to regenerate. Because those very important nutrients can be stripped away through the process of cultivation. But cultivation in the sense of the human condition is to create that space for going fallow, which is becoming more still, doing nothing. I call it being. It's coming back to self. You're not being pushed from pillar to post. There's no shoulds or shouldn'ts in the world that I'm living in right now. I'm very much moving to the rhythm of my life. And I have been for many, many years, in actual fact. I guess I'm one of those who's on a journey where I'm seeking to understand what's going on. And some might look upon my life and seek great sacrifice. There has been great sacrifice in my life. There's no doubt about it. I've definitely given up making money and ambition. I've given up that busy life. And yet I'm never without work. I'm not paid for what I do, but I'm never without work. I never have a moment of boredom because I'm living my life for me. I'm not living it for anybody else. I've taken my life back. And what it's doing is it's enabling me to listen deeply to the life itself. See, I no longer even care what people think of me anymore. I keep sharing and I keep giving, but I no longer care how it's received. Although it would never be sent in a way that's in any way harmful. It'll always be sent with love, and I always speak my truth. But once I speak it, I let it go now. I'm not responsible for how someone receives things. It's their journey. But I'm not caught up on keeping up appearances. I'm not caught up with needing to be loved. These things are not necessary in my life anymore. I'm not caught up with how I'm seen, what I'm doing, whether people perceive me as working or not working, whether I've got money or not, assets or not. I don't care anymore. It almost, well, I'll drop the word almost, it feels superfluous when I take my life back. Those things are superfluous because I'm not seeking to impress. I'm only seeking to experience life. So I started off this discussion with the climate crisis is the word that's come to my mind, but they're calling it a strike. So they're making it more sound akin to people striking for change, sending a clear message to governments. So I thought I'd read a poem for you that I wrote 8 years ago. It's called Saving the World Just in Time. It's out of my blog, Pieces Our True Nature, so you're welcome to go there. Well, obviously, my vision is world peaceful, empowerment, and empowerment only comes from within. So what I start off by saying, this is before I get to the poem, it's only a short introduction. The world we will be saved. Let me back up and say it again. I haven't reread it. I haven't read it for, 8 years? I haven't read it for 8 years. I'm just reading it now. The world will be saved. That's clearly the message for today. Just focus on light. All that is information. It is truth. So light is information. It's truth. They say the truth sets you free from fear, actually. Focus on the world you want, then create it. Talk about it, draw it, envisage that you have what you want, then create it in your life. The world changes, voila, just in time. Now, I'm actually, before I get into the poem, I need to actually add in another aspect that came to me today because I don't see things as unrelated. I've talked about the New Earth Army, Jim Shannon, before. He was very enlightened. He was a US soldier who created the first army that was to do with super soldiers, but these soldiers were to do with ensuring peace. They were preserving peace, preventing war. Now, the reason he came to me today, and it was through me looking over my blog, it sort of jumped out to me, and when it does, I pay attention. He was very much making very clear that even when he was in the military, he imagined the outcome he wants. He spent a lot of time creating it in his mind, projecting the future he wanted. Now, we've got ourselves very huge distractions across the world in respect of these trade wars. Business as usual is a massive distraction away from coming into balance with the planet, because those very heavily focused in this direction are very programmed into profit maximization. They're very programmed into productivity, materialism, business as usual, because that's what they know. They see the climate issue as something out there. It's something that gets broadcast on the television. They see their recycling bins and they think, oh, well, we're doing the best we can. But they have absolutely no understanding of the massive change that does need to happen. And yes, some talk of disruption, but the disruption that is on its way has got nothing to do with the information technology. The disruption is far, far bigger. Now, the reason I say these things is you have to envisage the future you're wanting. You can't just be reacting and saying the world is full of this, the world is full of that. These are my enemies, pumping a lot of money into more and more despair, more and more fear, which is what's sinking the planet. The profit motive is completely out of harmony with natural systems. In nature, there are exchanges that take place, but they take place on the basis of real need. They don't take place on the basis of fabricated need through marketing. Nature communicates through temperature regulation, through chemicals, its own natural chemicals that can communicate through those, through sunlight, so the phases of the day, the phases of the moon, communicates through water. Everything is sending signals. So when it rains, obviously plants flourish, things grow, things are responding to that dynamic in the system. Everything's interconnected. So it's not like one group takes all the abundance and leaves the rest of the species system to the side and says, well, you're inferior to me, you're just an input, but really my particular species is far more important than yours. Nature doesn't think like that. Nature sees everything as interrelated, and it's simply monitoring, not through surveillance, it monitors through change in order to ensure that the whole is in balance. It is constantly monitoring for balance. Now, if humans were to emulate this, we would be constantly monitoring for are we in balance or not. We would have a holistic worldview. That holistic worldview would be in line with how we're living. Are we living in dwellings that are zero energy? How are we living with each other? Are we resolving conflict? Are we living in harmony with one another? Are we taking responsibility for population growth? Are we managing resources in order to ensure that the whole species is held in homeostasis where there is enough? There's not a poverty mentality driving over extraction, over cultivation, over consumption. Because when you're in balance and you have enough and you're not overindulging, you understand your limits and you're at peace with what you have, where need equals want is what I typically say, then you are in harmony with the world. This is not about order. This is not about creating order out of chaos. It's about flow. It's about sensing, not through electronic pulses, but it's sensing as through the human biology, which knows, because the human organism is directly connected to nature. AI is not. AI is not, I'm just looking for the right word here. AI is not going to fall in love with you. AI doesn't sit down and really sense its essential oneness with the natural system. Even if it's programmed to look like that, it doesn't actually feel. So AI itself is out of harmony with the natural world. Now, of course, all those invested in it will feel a reaction to that statement because they see their own prosperity as connected to it. And yet what they're not understanding is it's actually contributing to the imbalance on the planet, which is why this climate strike is happening. And I'm not saying it's all about AI, it's not. I'm just using that as one example out of many. We look at automotive. Let's look at real estate, so much building. Let's look at aircraft. Let's look at industrial pollutants going into the atmosphere. Let's look at manufacturing processes. Let's look at cities and buildings and roads and trains and buses and schools and medical centres, which use a lot of disposable product. So our whole way of life is completely removed, as if on another planet we're removed from the natural system, which we are competing and taking far more from the system, which doesn't give the system any time or ability to actually rebalance itself. That's why we're getting radical climate. There's also interference with the climate because the climate has been weaponized as well. And that's, again, another disruption is we're still doing war games. We're still looking at weaponizing. We're still looking at surveillance and control and data gathering and enemies and all these type of thinking, which distracts us from the essential focus, which is to balance with the planet in order for life support systems to be maintained. So going back to Bill Shannon, who was a US military officer, he talked about deploying armies to take care of the planet. I think that was an excellent idea. So rather than directing young men's energy into murdering one another and calling that warfare and then trying to find a hero somewhere in that, you would direct young men's energy into restoring the planet. And it would actually heal them, because many of the young men going into the military are very angry and they can be very poor as well. So they're looking for work. Might be a reason why they're there, but they're not there because they all want to be soldiers, not at all. Some might, but majority wouldn't be. So why not direct them into nature? And when you do that, those men will heal, because the natural system, if you go into nature, it's very peaceful. That's why we often feel very at peace when we're in the natural system. It's very healthy and very healing. You get fresh air, fresh water, sunlight, no noise, no electronics. And you get very grounded because the earth energy actually grounds your own as you connect with it. So I'll go to the poem now. It's called Blinded by the Light. And maybe all of this somehow connects to this, because I haven't read the poem through, which is very usual for me, because I'm always intrigued to see where the inspiration takes me. So blinded by the light. My eyesight is fading, for I am becoming blind. But instead of darkness, I see light. In the twinkle of my years, for the seers speak to me, I'm listening with my heart, for the world is falling apart. I can no longer see right or wrong, weak or strong, better or worse, for I am colourblind. I only see hope. I only see potential. I only see your greatness, before which I feel humble. I'm looking at myself. The world is the reflection I see. What do I mean by reflection, you say? I pay attention to my interests. It is natural selection to focus on attention and create our own world. For we cannot be conscious of everything. Our intention colours what we see. For if our garden is full of weeds, there will be no seeds, no flowers of hope to grow. For we cannot see the security in the trees, for old growth breathes new beginnings. My eyes are closed, so I can see. For I see to look into the world book, for which there are no words, but the passage of time, which breathes in my ear that there is no time but the present to waste this precious life in the drought of reason. For my climate changes, I feel the undercurrents. I see past the media to unspoken words, to the forgotten memory of collective consciousness that has become unconscious. It is universal and of value, for I value the universe. I see past the world, and I remember what was lost. For I am becoming clear. I am losing my fear, for I will face myself in other faces. I will see myself in all races before the arms race settles the score, with scores to settle. For energy needs oil, for darkness needs lights to show another way. For this is a dead end. It is a blind alley where those who look cannot see, for they are blinded by greed. They are blinded by fear. They are blinded by hate. Before it's too late, it is time to tell the blind horseman on the blind horse that he is heading for the abyss. In the distance, I hear a clarion call. It is the sound of voices singing. It is the laughter of children. It is the love of a parent shining with pride at the golden moment of life, the miracle of conception. It is the magic in your eyes in the moment of connection. For love answers my question. It is the quest to love. The light shines through your eyes and colours a new world, painting a new picture. For across the landscape of your mind, love is always blind. For love is always kind, saving the world just in time. So that's a good omen for everybody. I trust my inspiration, and I know that we will live on. I know it's not the end. I've said before it's a new beginning, and it is. We're recalibrating back to homeostasis, and that is where we're going. But it will be a bit bumpy because so many people are invested in business as usual because they see that as the only option. They don't know how to change, and there's no leadership really of a different sort of mindset who can lead the change. Everybody is still thinking the same because people came into those positions, these power positions, really through their own connections and particular fraternities and what have you. We haven't, through our own natural selection, selected leaders that are really inspired to lead the world to this new beginning. So that's why there's a lot of confusion, because people are looking to the leaders to actually take decisions, but the leaders don't know how to undo it. You know, this is thousands of years of economics. They don't know how to undo it. They're mostly men in these positions who think in a certain way, and that's not negating the very illuminated, enlightened men like Jim Shannon. And there are many others like Buckminster Fuller who really see differently. Edward de Bono, he was a lateral thinker. And there's the sort of thinkers we need right now, but we need them with love and compassion. They've got to be well integrated in order to lead us in a direction that's in balance with the planet itself. Some may well consider it, you know, let's just get it all, before it all collapses. Let's just sink the ship, but we'll go, down having extracted everything to the fullest, rather than having the inspiration to know how to rebalance the planet so that it continues. The planet itself actually will continue. It's the human race that's under pressure here, because we're the ones that won't be naturally selected if we do not align with our true nature, which is why I called Peace is Our True Nature, my blog, because peace is the recalibration. Peace is not anti-war. The real peace is homeostasis. It's returning to who we really are. It's our natural state, of which none of us, or very few of us, an absolute minuscule number of us, are familiar with that. Majority have been pretty much programmed into a way of life that they attach security to, that they attach many things to, many addictions to, in order to feel safe and secure. But until you step out of your comfort zone, you cannot gain the experience of what it is to be a natural human. And through that experiential space, that's where you start to have the insights, you start to get the synchronicities, the inspiration on where to go next. So it's not actually a dead end when you start to live in this way. You start to see that the way finds you. But you've got to get out of your own way and allow life to be the determinant of where we move, rather than us through the egoic state of consciousness, which is I know better. Whilst that's in charge, we are definitely heading towards that abyss, which is the blind man on the blind horse heading for the abyss. Until we come into some form of mastery where we understand how to flow with life, how we let life become the leader. Life is the master. And this is the mastery of life, or life's mastery, that enables us to see the light. And light is information, as I stated in the poetry. I also felt to show you this article. The best way to pursue happiness is to help other people. Nothing else will make you happier. George Lucas. So he was the creator of Star Wars. And I want to also give you this one as well to have a look at. He was a very wise man. So the secret is not to give up hope. It's very hard not to, because if you're really doing something worthwhile, I think you will be pushed to the brink of hopelessness before you come through the other side. For me, homelessness is that. I've had to be pushed into a space where I've had to let go of all material things, and I've had to let go of security such as jobs. I've had to I don't have a partner, so I don't have the security of someone loving me. I have friends, but I don't have that sense of family or security. So that's forced me to, what I call, recline back into life and let life show me, because of my own uncertainty too. And what I realized many, many years ago was the uncertainty is the natural default. Once you come into uncertainty, you're actually letting go of control. When we keep trying to force certainty all the time, we're trying to control it, we're trying to order it, we're trying to make it happen in a certain way. We're putting our will over the top of something in order to get an outcome. But that's not nature. Nature is the opposite. Nature, when you start to find yourself going back to your true nature, you'll actually find yourself in a lot of uncertainty. You won't know what to do. Where in the past you always knew what to do, you had control, you had money, resources, you could direct them. When you don't have those anymore, you actually have to allow life to guide you, because you have no idea. I've probably been through about 10 years of that. I'm pretty good at it now. I'm getting very good at just going with the flow. That's why my videos are very natural. Excuse me. I'm a bit tired. Just like that. Yeah. I'm just going to go still. So what I'm just demonstrating here is the coughing is actually because I'm tired. I was up very early this morning, so my body's out of balance. And so when I'm talking, I'm being active. It's a lot like that pasture I talked about, the agriculture. You're over-cultivating. When I go still, this is fallow. I'm allowing the body to find its 0 point, its reset. I'm not taking energy from the body through exertion. I'm actually going within. This is what it means to be receptive. It's not overactive. It's not pushing or forcing. It's receiving. And there's no effort when you receive. The planet and the people upon this planet have to come into harmony, which means we people have to calm down. We're too revved up. We're too overstimulated. We're stimulated by drugs. We're stimulated by each other. We're stimulated by technology. Constantly looking, searching outside of ourselves, which makes us very disrupted. We're already disrupted, if the truth be known. You have to step back and go inward. Now, when I do that, every cell of the body knows that I'm stating peace. I'm saying peace. I'm not even saying it with words. As soon as I go into the body, it's peace itself. The body is actually peace, the inner workings of it. The body is the exact replica of the external natural world. Everything in the body is self-regulating. We can do some things consciously, but the majority of the body is an automatic system that's ensuring all the needs of the body are met. As soon as there's a slight change, the body responds. If there's an injury, the white blood cells gather. If we bleed, factor 8 seals the wound with the coagulation of the blood. We digest the food, it extracts nutrients, puts it into the bloodstream. We oxygenate through breathing. We release waste in the body. All of it is constantly rebalancing. So the peace is the mind rebalancing, because it's the mind that's out of control. That's why it seeks control. Because it's a learning form of intelligence. So it's an emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence is the feeling aspect of the body. It's sensing nature through the emotions and the feelings. It senses danger. It opens to intuition. It responds to changes in its environment by a reaction or a response. It envisages a future. It imagines. It perceives. It stores memory. And depending on the way it's been taught how to organise information and how to process experience will be to the extent that it can see an aspect of the picture. Those who've had a lot of experience can see more of the picture. Those who have had a lot of experience and emotional experience won't panic at great change. They will know how to manage it because they're resilient. People talk about resilience. Resilience is a confidence that you can survive. And we are going to need to know how to survive. We're going to have to learn to live with a lot less, which is actually coming back into homeostasis. It's not a bad thing. In truth, nobody owns anything on the planet. There's just a game that we played to say ownership exists because we equated power with that, because we hadn't found the power within ourselves. Now I'm going to finish this with George Lucas, his inspirational quotes. His first one is, "Dreams are extremely important. You can't do it unless you imagine it. Always remember, your focus determines your reality. A lot of people like to do certain things, but they're not good at it. Keep going though. The things that you like to do until you find something that you actually seem to be extremely good at. It can be anything. The best way to pursue happiness is to help other people. Nothing else will make you happier. The secret is not to give up hope. It's very hard not to, because if you're really doing something worthwhile, I think you will be pushed to the brink of hopelessness before you come through the other side. The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try." That's Yoda. Part of the issue of achievement is to be able to set realistic goals. But that's one of the hardest things to do because you don't always know exactly where you're going, and you shouldn't. I hadn't read that. I just read it now. See, this is trust. I don't read anything beforehand because I'm allowing. I live in uncertainty, you see. Whatever has happened in my quest for innovation has been part of my quest for immaculate reality. Train yourself to let go of the things you fear to lose. I like that. The secret to film is that it's an illusion. You have to find something that you have enough to be able to take risks, jump over hurdles and break through the brick walls that are always going to be placed in front of you. If you don't have that kind of feeling for what it is you are doing, you'll stop at the first giant hurdle. Working hard is extremely important. You're not going to get anywhere without working extremely hard. That's true. I work very hard myself, but I'm just not paid. I work for the sheer joy of it. Someday you're going to have to learn to separate what seems to be important from what is really important. To me, that's about climate change. To me, that's about business as usual. Something for everyone to contemplate. If you want to be successful in a particular field, perseverance is one of the key qualities. We are all living in cages with the door wide open. So you think you're a prisoner, you think you're a slave, but the door's actually open. You're free. My success wasn't based on how I could push down everybody that was around me. My success was based on how much I could push everybody up. Gee, I wish there were more people thinking like that. I just imagine where I could be, if I'd had more support and encouragement. I've actually found the opposite, particularly when I was homeless. If anything, they push you down. It's okay to lose, but don't lose the lesson. Many of the truth we cling to depends greatly upon our own point of view. Yeah, that seems to validate what I think is true. There should be a point to movies. Sure, you're giving people a diversion from the Cold War for a bit, but at the same time, you pass on some facts and rules and maybe a little bit of wisdom. So that was George Lucas. So I'm going to leave it now with that because I've done a good 45 minutes. And may we change the climate back into homeostasis. May we learn our true nature by letting go of many things that we think we need. Do we need the cars? Do we need the cities? Do we need the planes? Do we need our house? Do we need supermarkets? And I'm not saying one thing or the other. I'm just saying question what it is you think you absolutely need and can't live without. That was George Lucas's advice. What things do we need that are going to bring the planet back into homeostasis? What are the things that are just built-in obsolescence, that are waste, that we don't need? This is where the deeper reflection must take place. So with that, I send you love, peace, and a renewable climate of change. Thanks. Bye.